This may be the next Air Force One, a $400 million Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental, gifted to the United States by the royal family of Qatar. It's the largest, fastest, and most advanced version of the most recognizable aircraft ever built. But right now, this flying palace can't protect the president from anything more dangerous than turbulence. The challenge isn't just adding security systems, it's hiding a fortress inside a work of art without destroying either one. The aircraft itself measures exactly 250 feet and 2 inches from nose to tail. That's 20 feet longer than the current Air Force One, and just 14 feet shorter than the wingspan of the aircraft itself. Stand it on its tail and it would reach as high as a 19-story building. The fuselage stretches 19 feet across at its widest point, creating an interior cabin width of 20 feet on the main deck. Wingspan reaches 224 feet and 5 inches, with winglets that curve up another 11 feet at each tip. Those winglets aren't decoration. They reduce drag by breaking up the vortices that form at the wingtips, improving fuel efficiency by roughly 2%. The wing area totals nearly 6,000 square feet, enough to cover 5 tennis courts. When the aircraft is sitting at the gate, the cockpit windows sit level with the 5th floor of a typical office building. 4 General Electric Genx 2B67 turbofan engines hang from the wings, and they represent a generational leap over what powers the current VC-25A. Each engine produces 66,500 pounds of thrust. That's 14,000 pounds more than the CF6-80C2 engines on Air Force One today, and the Genx achieves this while burning 15% less fuel per pound of thrust. Here's why. The Genx uses a bypass ratio of 8:1. For every pound of air that passes through the hot combustion core, 8 pounds flow around it through the fan section. This moving wall of cold air generates most of the thrust, while the core provides the power to spin the fan. Higher bypass means higher efficiency, lower noise, and a smoother ride. The fan itself measures nearly 9 feet across, with 18 carbon fiber composite blades that weigh 50% less than titanium equivalents while handling the same loads. The combustion section runs at 2400 degrees Fahrenheit during cruise. Ceramic matrix composite materials line the combustion chamber and turbine section, materials that didn't exist when the current Air Force One's engines were designed. These ceramics handle temperatures that would melt conventional metal alloys. That allows higher operating temperatures and greater efficiency. The result is an engine that produces more thrust while burning less fuel at lower temperatures relative to its output. Maximum takeoff weight hits 987,000 pounds, nearly 500,000 tons. Empty, the aircraft weighs approximately 485,000 pounds. That leaves over 500,000 pounds for fuel, passengers, cargo, and everything else. Fuel capacity reaches 63,000 gallons spread throughout tanks in the wings and center fuselage. At cruise consumption of roughly 2,800 gallons per hour, that translates to over 22 hours of flight time before the tanks run dry. That's far longer than even most long-haul commercial flights. Range without refueling is 8,000 nautical miles, enough to fly non-stop from Washington to Singapore, Washington to Dubai, or Washington to almost any capital city on Earth. The current VC-25A maxes out at 6,800 nautical miles and burns 16% more fuel getting there. Cruise speed sits at Mach 0.855, approximately 570 miles per hour at altitude. That's the fastest of any commercial jet currently flying. Maximum operating speed reaches Mach 0.9 before aerodynamic limits take over. The service ceiling tops out at 43,100 feet. Though optimal cruise altitude sits between 35,000 and 40,000 feet, where the air is thin enough for efficiency but dense enough for the engines to breathe. The airframe itself is 13 years old, delivered new in 2012. That sounds like a problem until you compare it to what's flying now. The current VC-25As entered service in 1990, 35 years of service. Parts are getting harder to source. Maintenance windows keep growing longer. By comparison, a 13-year-old 747-8 with VIP usage patterns, low cycles, careful handling, and climate-controlled hangars is practically new. These aircraft are designed for 35,000 flight cycles and 135,000 flight hours. A VIP transport might accumulate a few hundred cycles per year. But the airframe is just the beginning. What's inside this aircraft is what made the gift worth accepting. Step through the main entrance door and you're standing in a private hallway that leads directly to the presidential suite. This isn't how passengers board a commercial 747. No walking past rows of seats, no squeezing through narrow aisles, no contact with anyone you'd rather not see. The Qatar jet was designed so VIPs enter through their own door into their own space, completely separated from staff and crew. The primary bedroom sits at the forward end of the main deck, occupying space that would normally hold first-class seats on a commercial aircraft. A full-size bed, not a fold-out, not a convertible sofa. An actual king-size bed with an actual mattress, mounted to the airframe in a way that stays stable during turbulence. The current Air Force One has a pullout that presidents have complained about for decades. Trump took one look at Qatar's master suite and the decision made itself. Surrounding the bed, custom wood paneling runs floor to ceiling. Hand-selected grain patterns matched across adjacent panels. The kind of millwork that costs thousands of dollars per linear foot and requires craftsmen who specialize in yacht and aircraft interiors. Indirect LED lighting integrated into ceiling coves. Climate control zones that let the president set his own temperature independent of the rest of the aircraft. The master bathroom connects directly to the bedroom, a full lavatory with fixtures that belong in a Malibu mansion, marble countertops, gold-plated hardware, a shower with multiple heads and enough water pressure to feel like home. There's also a second master bedroom, because when you're Qatari royalty, one apparently isn't enough. Commercial 747s fit 400 passengers with maybe a dozen lavatories. This aircraft has 2 bathrooms for 1 bedroom. Moving aft from the bedroom suite, the private office occupies the next section. Wood-paneled walls. A full executive desk sized for actual work, not a folding tray table. A leather executive chair mounted on a swivel base that locks during turbulence. Built-in display screens, storage cabinets, work surfaces designed for someone who runs meetings at 40,000 feet. The current VC-25A has an office, but it reflects 1980s thinking. Functional, dated, and cramped by modern executive standards. The Qatar jet's office looks like it belongs in a corner suite in Manhattan. The wood alone probably costs more than most cars. Past the office, the main lounge opens up. And this is the centerpiece, the money shot. A space that would look appropriate in a luxury hotel lobby, somehow squeezed into an aluminum tube. Expansive seating areas spread across the cabin width. Leather sofas arranged for conversation, deep enough to sink into and soft enough to sleep on. Individual armchairs that swivel and recline. An entertainment center built into a wood-paneled wall. Screens, speakers, and media systems that would satisfy a home theater enthusiast. Coffee tables with built-in storage. Side tables with integrated charging. Every surface designed for comfort and function. Ceiling height reaches nearly 8 feet in places. Generous for any aircraft. Remarkable for a 747. The windows are larger than standard, letting natural light fill the space in a way that makes you forget you're in a pressurized tube at 40,000 feet. Window shades are electronically controlled, dimming from clear to opaque at the touch of a button. The aft lounge sits behind the main one, offering more privacy for smaller conversations or moments when the president needs to step away. Similar finishes, similar comfort, different purpose. On a normal VIP aircraft, this would be where senior staff relaxes during long flights. Business class fills the rear of the main deck. Staff, support personnel, Secret Service, military aides, and the small army that travels with any president. This section looks more like a premium airline cabin. Lie-flat seats, personal entertainment systems, enough space to actually rest during a 14-hour flight. Compared to the cramped quarters on the current Air Force One, where staff members sometimes sleep in shifts because there aren't enough horizontal surfaces, this is a revolutionary upgrade. But the main deck is only half the aircraft. Upstairs, there's an entire second level. Commercial 747s use it for premium passengers. Air Force One will need it for something else entirely. The 747-8's upper deck runs 60 feet from the cockpit door to the rear pressure bulkhead, providing approximately 1,000 square feet of cabin space above the main level. On commercial aircraft, this space holds business class or first class passengers. On the Qatar jet, it holds more lounges, more seating areas, and another full galley. A curved staircase connects the two decks, wide enough for two people to pass. Finished with the same wood and leather as everything else. Handrails polished to a mirror shine. Treads designed for dress shoes, not combat boots. For the Qatari royals, it was an elegant convenience. For the Secret Service, it's a choke point that needs to be secured, monitored, and controllable from multiple locations. The upper deck forward section contains crew quarters, berthing for flight crew and cabin attendants, workspace for pilots during cruise, storage for supplies that keep a VIP aircraft operating for days without returning to base. This area stays largely functional regardless of who owns the aircraft. The upper deck lounge fills the remaining space. More leather seating, more wood paneling, more windows looking out at 40,000 feet. The Qatari configuration prioritizes comfort over everything else. Because comfort is what royal families pay for. Now compare this to what the current Air Force One actually looks like inside. The VC-25A has been flying presidents since George H.W. Bush. Its interior reflects what modern meant in 1990. Functional, secure, but aesthetically frozen in the Reagan era. The presidential suite has a fold-out bed that presidents have complained about for 30 years. The office works, but looks dated. The medical suite is genuinely capable, surgical quality equipment and trained personnel, but it takes up space that could otherwise serve passengers. The communications equipment tells the real story. Air Force One carries the most sophisticated airborne communication suite in the world. Encrypted satellite uplinks, secure video conferencing, direct lines to Nuclear Command Authority, and the ability to address the nation from 40,000 feet. That equipment fills entire sections of the aircraft. Racks of servers, cables running through every bulkhead, cooling systems to keep electronics from overheating. The upper deck of the VC-25A isn't a lounge, it's a flying data center with some seats attached. The Qatar jet has no communications equipment worth mentioning. Whatever the royal family used for phone calls and internet access was consumer-grade hardware that will be ripped out immediately. The secure systems that make Air Force One actually function as a mobile White House don't exist on this aircraft yet. They will, but installing them means finding space for equipment the size of several refrigerators in an aircraft designed to maximize passenger comfort, not electronic warfare capability. The VC-25B program, the purpose-built replacement for the current Air Force One, has been designing those systems in from day one. Every wire, every rack, every cooling duct planned before construction started. 2 brand new 747-8s being built specifically to be Air Force One, scheduled for delivery in 2027. Already years behind schedule and billions over budget, the Qatar jet has to achieve the same result through retrofit. Same capability, same security, same communications, starting from an aircraft that was built to pamper royalty, not protect presidents. Here's what the Qatar jet currently has for defense. An anti-intrusion alarm that triggers when someone approaches the aircraft on the ground. That's it. No missile defense, no countermeasures. Nothing that would help if someone pointed a shoulder-fired missile at the aircraft during takeoff or landing. For a royal family that travels within its own security perimeter, that was adequate. For the President of the United States, the highest value target on Earth, it's a starting point barely above zero. The AN/ALQ-204 Matador system handles infrared missile threats, and understanding how it works explains why it's so critical. Shoulder-fired missiles like the SA-7, Stinger or Igla use infrared seekers to track aircraft. The seeker head contains a cooled detector, usually indium antimonide, that's sensitive to specific wavelengths of heat produced by jet exhaust. The detector sees hot engines as a bright spot against cold sky, and the missile steers toward that bright spot until impact. The Matador defeats these missiles by blinding their seekers. Infrared sensors mounted on the aircraft detect the ultraviolet signature of a missile launch. The rocket motor produces a distinctive UV flash that's visible from miles away. Once a launch is detected, the system calculates the missile's trajectory and slews a high-powered infrared laser onto the incoming threat. This laser overwhelms the missile seeker with energy at the exact wavelengths it's trying to track. The seeker can't distinguish the real target from the jamming signal. The guidance system loses lock, and the missile flies off course and misses. Response time from detection to jamming is less than 2 seconds. The system operates automatically, engaging threats before human operators could even identify them. Chaff and flare dispensers handle different threat categories. Chaff consists of thousands of thin metallic strips, aluminum-coated fiberglass cut to specific lengths that correspond to radar wavelengths. When ejected into the airstream, the chaff cloud creates a radar signature larger than the aircraft itself, confusing radar-guided missiles into attacking the cloud instead of the plane. Flares operate against infrared seekers through a different mechanism than the Matador. Rather than jamming the seeker, flares present a hotter target. Each flare burns at approximately 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, far hotter than jet exhaust, creating an irresistible decoy that pulls heat-seeking missiles away from the aircraft. Modern missiles have countermeasures that try to distinguish flares from real targets based on spectral signature and movement patterns. Modern flares incorporate coatings that mimic aircraft exhaust spectra, defeating those discrimination algorithms. Electronic warfare systems address radar-guided threats. These systems detect incoming radar signals, analyze their characteristics, and broadcast jamming signals that prevent hostile radar from achieving weapons quality tracking. The specifics are classified, but the principle is straightforward. Fill the electromagnetic spectrum with noise that makes targeting impossible. The EMP hardening requirement might be the most invisible and most critical protection. An electromagnetic pulse, whether from nuclear detonation or a purpose-built weapon, destroys unshielded electronics instantly. Every computer, every communication system, every flight control processor would fail simultaneously. Air Force One must continue operating through an EMP event, which means every electronic system aboard needs protection. This protection takes the form of a Faraday cage, a continuous shell of conductive material that surrounds the cabin and equipment bays. When electromagnetic radiation hits the shell, the energy distributes across the conductive surface rather than penetrating to the electronics inside. The challenge is continuity. One gap in the shielding, one unsealed penetration, one improperly grounded panel, and the entire protection scheme fails. The cage must be perfect, and it must be invisible. On aircraft designed for military use, Faraday shielding is integrated into the structure from initial construction. On the Qatar jet, it has to be added after the fact, behind wood paneling and leather walls that were never designed to hide anything, which makes many wonder if this aircraft will ever fly at all. The aircraft is sitting in San Antonio right now. L3Harris Technologies will handle the retrofit. They bring experience from military aircraft modifications across multiple programs. But nothing in their portfolio quite matches this challenge, installing fortress-level systems into palace-level interiors while preserving both. The constraint isn't capability. American aerospace contractors have been hardening aircraft and installing defensive systems for decades. The constraint is the interior. Every modification has to fit behind surfaces that weren't designed to accommodate them. The wood paneling needs to hide Faraday shielding. The ceiling needs to conceal antenna feeds. The floors need to route cables to systems that don't have designated spaces. The communication suite alone requires hundreds of square feet of equipment, satellite terminals, encryption processors, video conferencing codecs, and the redundant systems that ensure connectivity even if primary systems fail. On the purpose-built VC-25B, that equipment has designed compartments. On the Qatar jet, it has to fit wherever engineers can find room without visible impact on passenger spaces. Expert estimates range from 18 months to several years. Aviation analyst Richard Abulafia called quick conversion a fantasy. The timeline isn't about technical ability, it's about the 1,000 small decisions that determine whether the final product looks like Air Force One or looks like a luxury jet with military equipment bolted on. Cost projections are equally uncertain. The aircraft was free, but retrofit estimates range from $100 million to over $1 billion depending on scope. At the low end, basic defensive systems and communications. At the high end, full VC-25B equivalency with every system, every redundancy, and every capability that the purpose-built aircraft will provide. The VC-25B program continues in parallel. 2 aircraft designed from day one to be Air Force One. Scheduled for delivery in 2027 after years of delays and billions in overruns. If the Qatar jet conversion succeeds quickly, it could bridge the gap while the purpose-built aircraft finish their extended development. If conversion takes too long, the current VC-25As will keep flying until the replacements are ready, and the Qatar jet might end up as the most expensive presidential library exhibit ever donated. Here's why. The aircraft transfers to Trump's presidential library by January 2029, if not in government service by then. Engineers are just getting started, and the clock is already running.